Hello and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Now, are you constantly stressed with your job? Do you wake up feeling miserable about going to work or feel the company doesn't fit in with your values anymore? If so, it might be time you thought about changing your career. Perhaps you've just burnt out, or you fell into your career and you've never followed your dreams, or you're just not challenged anymore and find your current position really boring. Whatever the case may be, if you're unhappy with your job, then it's time you thought about what it is you really want to do. Today, I'll be talking to Laura Taylor. And tell me the other part of your name, Laura. Van, okay, Laura Taylor Van, who changed her career quite later on in life, and we'll be looking at the signs that you're unhappy in your job. And I'll also be talking to Matt Barnwell, who started his own company after working in the leisure industry for 10 years. We'll also be watching some tips on how to job search if you already have a job, and I'll be talking about things to consider before making a career change. But first, let's go straight to Laura to talk about her story. Hello, Laura.
Hello, Chrissy.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So tell me, you did change careers. What were you doing before you changed?
I ended up working in a software company. We were writing the back end to 999 systems. So when you dial 999 and you're asked which emergency service you need, you get put through, and from there on in, our systems were producing stats and analysis, which helps the government to understand how to devolve their budgets, etc.
Now, were you enjoying that job?
No.
Why was that? What would you say?
Because my background is mainly in the creative side.
Oh, gosh. So that must have been quite mind-numbing for you.
It was more, it was commercially, it was taking a toll, because you're running somebody's company for them, making calls to creditors, etc. and so on, and it's a far cry from what I was used to. But it was a challenge when I started it, and I enjoyed it.
Okay. And when did you start to sort of feel, you know what, I'm starting to get a bit fed up of this, or I want to do something else?
I think I was there for about 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And I think probably from year 9 or 10 onwards, I knew that there was no longevity left in it, and that it was time to make a change and maybe go back to my roots and back to what I knew, but use this commercial knowledge that I'd acquired along the way.
Okay, so it wasn't a waste, if you like, because you gained experience, you learned some things that were going to be useful for you for the future. But tell me, were you like one of those people that wake up on Monday and think, oh?
Yes. I would dread Sunday night. I'd think to myself, oh, I can't believe that I've got to go back in again tomorrow. Yeah. I did a lot of working from home, which grew more and more steadily, becoming working from home at that time. I'd moved out of London. The same
work, so you started to work?
Yes, in that job I had a team that I was managing, but I was trying to do it remotely because I didn't want to drag myself back into the office. Okay. I really wanted to make the break, but I think I was gathering the courage, always trying to find the right time, and there is no right time. You've just got to do it,
All right, so now talk us through maybe some of the thoughts that came to your mind, or the emotions that you went through when you made that decision, because it must have been really scary because you were working there a long time, and to make that jump into what you really love, which is?
Going back into, I started back in makeup artistry, and it's sort of grown from there. We now run a lifestyle consultancy.
Right, wow, okay. So what made you kind of have that courage, would you say? What made you take that plunge?
I think it was the roundabouts of every Monday thinking I'm doing something I don't want to do, and just complaining about it, and really only I could change the situation. So it was a question of, are you just going to sit here moaning about it the whole time, or are you going to just deal with it? All
right, Laura, before we carry on with this story, let's take a look at this video about when you should consider changing your career, and then we get back to Laura's story.
How to know when it's time to quit your job. Are you ready for a job change? Or should you stick it out in your current position? Asking yourself these questions will help you decide. You will need time to reflect and the ability to be honest with yourself. Step 1. Note how you feel on Monday morning. Are you sick to your stomach at the thought that there are 5 days between you and another weekend? Not good. If anxiety starts to set in on Sunday, that's a bad sign. Step 2. Think about your workload. Has it recently doubled or halved? Either scenario is a valid reason to be unhappy. Step 3. Draw up a list of the job's pros and cons. Do the cons outnumber the pros? Are the cons more troubling than the pros are enticing? Note, free coffee doesn't count as a pro. Step 4. Assess your value to the company. Do you feel you're being paid what you're worth? Is your boss appreciative of your efforts? If the answer is no to both, it's time to go. Unless there's a company-wide salary freeze at your firm, not getting a raise at your last performance review is a sign that you're not valued. Step 5. Weigh your options. If you quit, could you afford to live without a salary for a while? The average job hunt takes 6 months. More if you're earning over $60,000. Employment experts say job seekers must figure on 1 month of searching for every $10,000 they earn. Step 6. Be honest. Could a trained SEAL do your job? Then you're ready for a challenge. Step 7. Measure your threshold for taking crap. Is it lowering? Are you on the verge of telling your boss at the morning meeting, "By the way, nobody really wants to hear about your weekend potty training the puppy. Let's get this show on the road." Ta-ta and good luck. Did you know more than 3/4 of survey respondents said they're suffering from burnout at work, and more than half claimed they're under a lot of on-the-job stress?
Okay, so there's a few signs for you when it's time to move on. Well, let's get straight back to Laura's story. So you're working in a company for 16 years.
Yes.
By year 9, you sort of knew this wasn't really for you, but you kind of dragged out a little bit longer.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you feel when you were kind of considering changing? What kind of fears came to you, would you say?
Really very scared. I had I've got twin daughters who are now obviously grown up. They were very young, and I was worried about how I was going to look after them and myself. So that was a major factor. And it was really just fear of having no money. Having had no money for a little while when they were very young, I was worried about going back to that. But I think that if you really believe in yourself, and I know that sounds, I know how it sounds, but if you really believe that this is the right thing for you, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You'll make it work. It will work.
You will make it work.
You will make it work. That fear is the most motivating power that you can have.
And plus now you'd had things to your advantage, like we said before, the video is that you had the experience, even dealing with people, working with people, you had all of that under your belt. And sometimes people forget that. I think, oh, you know, it's a waste if I change now, what about all the time that I've done here? But you've gained something from that. You've gained experience, you've gained, I don't know, better relationships with people. It hasn't been a waste, and maybe it's just time to move on and do what you really want to do.
That's exactly right.
And what did you do?
I moved on. I did move on. Unfortunately, my boss, who was also my best friend, committed suicide. And that for me was a massive turning point, because by now I realised that there was nothing to go back to, and that it was time to get on with the next chapter of my life. And that I was holding myself back. And I now had no longer had any excuses to delay it. So it was time to do it. I had already, and this is a good thing for people to do, I had set up a website introducing the concept of what I now do, but it was in its very, very early infancy stages, and that is something positive that anyone could do, because if that is your first step. And I kept looking at it, and now I had to deal with it. There was no more closing the door and waiting. So that is a positive first step for anyone to do. And it's easy to set up a website.
Yeah, it is nowadays.
And you just become more professional as time goes past.
So tell us about your business and your website now.
I studied makeup artistry from a young age. I studied abroad, came back to London. I was offered a position with the BBC, which I declined and was told that I would ruin my life from it. They told me I would.
Oh dear, they're positive.
My motivator there was that I wanted to earn money. At that time, if you worked for the BBC, you were an intern. You went to their college, which they no longer have, and you studied makeup through the BBC's training techniques, and you don't get paid for it. And the lure of a salary was too great for me. I say to anybody who's in that situation, always look at it from your perspective, and if you want to follow your gut instinct, that is the only way to go. So I turned it down. I did get a big salary, I was in various jobs, many jobs. I was a bilingual PA, and then it sort of graduated from there. I ended up working behind makeup counters, and then eventually for houses like Clarins, Clinique, Estee Lauder. Well, they're now mainly all of them are Estee Lauder, but anyway. And I got my knowledge through that route. And now I have returned to doing not so much makeup artistry, but more lifestyling, gurus, beginning to attend what you call red carpet events, covering them, looking at fashion, looking at how people's lives and how they bring fashion and beauty into their lives. But basically, just how to live a life that you feel is the perfect fit for you.
Now we've got a minute left to break. So can you just tell us how you feel about waking up in the morning now on a Monday?
I'm really happy with my life. I've got the perfect life, and it's something that I've always dreamt that I would get to, and I'm finally at that situation where I do feel, yes, bring it on.
Whatsoever.
No, none at all.
Could you tell us your website address as well?
Yes, it's maisonduvan.com.
Okay. And it's lifestyle, and you find everything there.
Lifestyle guru. We're doing a big segment at the moment on women going through menopause.
Oh, okay.
So that should be
we
interesting.
need to do a show about that actually one day. I have to bring you back on, Laura, because that is a huge topic, right?
It really is.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad you're finally living your dreams, Laura. Thanks for speaking to us, and I'm sure you've motivated lots of people to take that plunge. Thank you. Alrighty, guys, so don't go away, because we will be having more guests on to talk about this subject, and also we have the news with Excel after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back everyone to today's program, and we are speaking about whether it's time for a career change. So now I'm joined by Matt Barnwell. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Chrissy.
How are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So thanks for coming on to talk about this, because you also took the plunge at one point in your life.
I did, yes.
You did, and you're very happy with what you did today. But can you tell us what was going on at the time and what job you were doing?
My previous full-time job before I made the change was as a group operations manager for a national bowling centre company.
Okay.
So there was a very heavy workload, a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. But as well, working for somebody else, it was pressure and responsibility that I wasn't being necessarily rewarded for, like I would be if I was working for myself.
Yeah.
And the very heavy amount of hours going into it and pressure.
How many hours are we talking about here?
70 to 80 hours a week, but
wow.
Being available on the phone all the time. So I've taken phone calls on mountains in the Lake District and on holiday in America.
Oh
and
no. So you weren't allowed to switch off at any point? You had to be on standby?
It was always on. I wouldn't be able to sit here now because people would be trying to call me and ask me questions.
How did that make you feel sort of mentally? Because you must have kind of always been on edge, even if you were sort of enjoying yourself somewhere. You must have always had that thing.
You can't switch off.
You can't, can you?
I'd be sat somewhere at 11:30 doing emails in a nightclub, and it really is no life at all. So.
And would that kind of affect your mental health? Were you sort of feeling down about it, or were you quite trying to be quite positive?
You have to stay positive, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to carry on doing it. And you do feel there's a lot of people relying on you when you're in a role. I had 10 centre managers who would rely on me, and if they had an issue, they'd have to call me. And I'd have to help them work through that issue. I couldn't not answer the phone and allow it to be a problem. And
you
it
must
does
have been tempted at some points not to answer.
It would be good just to throw it away. No, you couldn't do that, and you had to be relied on. And it did create a hugely pressured environment. Difficult to sleep, difficult to get the right amount of rest.
So they'd ring throughout the night as well sometimes? Or?
The sort of industry has a lot of late night opening venues and early opening venues. If one of your sites has a nightclub, then you're dealing with issues at 4 a.m. and the other site runs children's birthday parties at 10 a.m. So I'm back dealing with issues at 9. So it's a funny industry, the leisure industry. How
long did you put up with that for, I would say?
Surprisingly long amount of time. I started working in this sort of industry when I went to university. I did a law degree at Nottingham, and while I was there, started working at a bowling centre as effectively a waiter. Also dressed in a hat and did dances on the lanes and things, so the things you do when you're a student, and then just never left. Stayed.
So it's not the actual, it wasn't the industry that you had the issue with, it's just the way the kind of work you were doing in particular?
I think as soon as you progress to management in the leisure or hospitality industry, the pressure versus reward balance is completely skewed compared to a lot of other industries.
Okay.
And people think it's all fun and games working in the bowling centre or a pub.
Yeah.
But it can be very long hours and very highly pressured. You'd make more money working in Tesco. Stacking shelves in Tesco would generate more money than being a manager in a business that's turning over £1 million a year. Exactly. So the time came to finally stop.
When did you have enough? At what point? What was it that was like, you know what, can't take it anymore, I need to make this change?
I knew by the start of 2014 that I needed to get out because it was affecting my health. To do the job to the standard I wanted, I wanted to be able to support everybody. And if I didn't do that, then I'd felt like I'd have failed doing it. But in order to do that, it was affecting my health. I had fairly serious back issues. It was stressful.
The back issues as well as all the other stuff that you were going through?
Yeah, I had 2 herniated discs, so went through MRIs to find out what that was.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it was a terrible job. It wasn't. It was fun and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have carried on doing it so long if I didn't enjoy it. And it was interesting and varied.
Okay.
But the time came to switch off, draw a line under it and finally leave.
Did you was it difficult for you to leave? Were you kind of scared about making a change, or was it like you were just so fed up about the whole situation that it was easy for you to change?
It was incredibly difficult because it had been the only industry I've ever worked in. So I finished my degree and then went straight into working in that industry with different companies as I moved around. I also felt like I was letting down the people that were working directly around me because in a strange way, while
that shows what a great employee you were, because you were worried about sort of making sure you were there for them when they needed you and worried about leaving. So that they've lost a great person, really, haven't they?
Well, I'd like to think that. But you have to do it sometimes. You can't possibly stay in a job.
For your own well-being as well, at some point.
Yeah, it's not healthy to stay in a job that you don't feel like you should be doing. And as stressful as it can be, it's time to switch it off and move on.
Okay. So even though you found it hard, you decided this is going to be right for me, what I'm going to do.
Exactly. I had to take the big step and leave. But that also meant leaving the salary that hit your bank account every month, that paid for your house, that paid for your car, paid for your phone, and paid for the rest of your life that went around it. But if I hadn't have made that choice, then I wouldn't be where I am today, working for myself.
Did you already know in your head what you wanted to do before you left?
I'd met up with a friend of mine who was a director in a company that I'd worked for a while ago, and we'd discussed the possibility of running a consultancy in this sort of field that would enable people that were independent businesses to access the same skill set and knowledge base that you would have if you were a national company. So it had been tabled. We'd put the idea forward.
So there was something there already,
and one day he received a phone call saying, "Okay, I've left. Let's do it. Let's do this thing." I rang him on the way back from the meeting that I'd given my decision in.
Okay.
And said,
was it a relief when you did that? Or did you feel like, yes?
It was such a weight off my mind.
There you go.
I'd given up having a salary and it was really relaxing, it turns out.
It's strange, isn't it? Because you think you'd be even more worried and more stressed, but when you've made the right decision, it's like there's calm, isn't there?
It really is. You know.
Exactly.
You really know you've done the right thing,
Yeah.
as scary as it might be at the time.
Yeah. Because you know you're going to find your way after that. At least you're not having to deal with that pressure anymore, and you can just move forward with things.
Yeah, and it was difficult. I was working during the day in the office, setting the business up, writing a website, developing the systems and procedures we'd use, and then going and working behind the bar at the local pub 5, 6, 7 nights a week whenever there was a shift.
But it was a different kind of difficult, wasn't it? It was like, because you knew you were going somewhere with it.
It's hours, but you're doing them for yourself.
Yeah,
I was working behind that bar, pulling pints to make me able to set this new business up. So there was a benefit in the end.
How's the business going today?
It's going really well. We've got some solid clients. We're doing some interesting work with some marketing companies and working on customer perception branding now. And it's a fascinating field to work in. Every day is different and it's truly interesting.
Brilliant. And do you wake up on Mondays thinking, yay, I'm going to work, or I'm going to work on, or you like
no,
you were before?
I love it.
You
I
love
wake
it?
up, but
this is the number one sign, if you're regretting, if you don't like waking up on Monday morning to go to work, that is a big sign.
If you're happy on a Monday morning, it is definitely good. But my working week can run 5 days, 7 days, 2 days.
Yeah.
And it is as flexible as I want it to be now. So if I wake up on Saturday and really feel like working, then I'll quite happily do that. Equally, if I wake up on Monday and don't want to, then I won't.
So no more disturbances when you're on holiday or when you're out having fun?
Nope.
No more phone calls?
I can now go on holiday. I can now sound check for a gig, and I won't have a phone call interrupting that.
Now tell us about your hobbies as well, because you sing as well, don't you?
I sing and play bass in a punk band. We're called Resuscitators.
Resuscitators, okay.
You can find us on Bandcamp.
Okay. So is that, did you have that at the time when you were working before, or was this something that you started afterwards?
I did, but I've been in the band for 2 to 3 years. But that job did get in the way.
Okay.
I'd have to plan everything around work. I'd have to stop in the middle of a practice session to take phone calls, as crazy as that sounds.
So this is another point, isn't it? Because sometimes when you do have a job that you don't enjoy, and when it's long hours like that, you don't have time to do the things that you love doing as well, that make you happy. So it's just all these things that maybe are being neglected because of a job that you really shouldn't be in.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you are happy in your personal life, you are so much more productive.
It's
now
true.
I'm so much more effective and productive at even things that I was doing before.
Yeah.
Because I'm more relaxed, I'm calmer, and it really is a beneficial step.
Yeah. So if someone right now is sort of considering, they really hate their job, but they're kind of afraid of moving on, what would you say to them?
I'd say they have to do it. You have to take that step, and if you've been previously sitting there saying it's going to get better, you have to tell yourself that it won't. If it's not got better yet, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
You need to make the move now, and you'll thank yourself for it after you've done it.
Definitely. Matt, thank you so much for speaking to us, and all the best with your business and your band.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, so before we go to a break, let's take a look at this video on what to do if you're thinking of switching jobs when you're in a current job at the moment.
So when you're searching for a job when you're already employed, it can be a little tricky. You want to be respectful to your employer, but still put your best foot forward. So here are a few tips on how to avoid a sticky situation. 1, don't quit. So the first thing you might want to do if you're unhappy at your job is quit. And trust us, don't do this. Keep pushing through until you actually have another job offer. Having no job and no income just really isn't worth it. In such a competitive job market, it may be tough to find a job. So your best bet is to keep on going until something else comes up. Use the fact that you have a job to your advantage when you're speaking with other employers. 2, don't slack off. Staying at a job that you don't like can make it kind of hard to stay motivated and continue to be a good employee. But you should really work as hard as you did right when you first started. And when you do leave your job, make sure you leave on a good note so the employer remembers you as a good, hard-working employee instead of someone who kind of slacked and wasn't very motivated. This way you can keep them as a future reference when you're looking for another job. 3, don't search at work. Limit your job search to your personal time and on your personal computer. It might be really tempting to search during your downtime at work, but don't do that. It's possible for your current employer to catch you searching for jobs at work. Talk about awkward. 4, keep quiet. So this may sound obvious, but don't let anyone that you work with know you're searching for another job. Office gossip travels so fast, and even if you think that person is your BFF, you never really know who they're telling. And you probably wouldn't want the news getting back to your boss. 5, be upfront with the new employer. Explain in interviews what you're lacking in your current job and what you're hoping to gain out of a new job.
Well, I liked working there, but it got to a point where it didn't feel like I would be able to move up and take on more responsibilities, so I decided to start looking elsewhere.
However, make sure you never badmouth your current employer. It could kind of make you look like a whiny employee.
Oh my gosh, well the people there suck. People kept stealing my food out of the fridge. One of my coworkers talked really funny, and I didn't like that.
And also, let the interviewer know that you're not comfortable with them contacting your current boss unless they are 100% sure that they are offering you the job. So following these 5 steps will ensure that you don't run into any issues while searching for a job if you're already employed.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show. So we've been speaking about making a career change. Is it time to make one, or are you really happy in your job? So obviously one of the signs that you're not happy is if you wake up on a Monday morning and you're actually dreading going into work. that is a very obvious sign. And there are others, as we showed on the video earlier. But now, we did introduce Excel earlier, but unfortunately she couldn't come on right then. But she's here now with us. Hello, my darling.
Hello.
Have you ever had to make a career change?
Oh yes, I did make one in the recent past, yes.
And how was that? Well, did you know you wanted to make it, or?
I did,
Right.
because I think I had reached a point where I was trying to, you know how you kind of want to patch things up and you kind of want to put a band-aid over the situation and just kind of pull on a bit further, because I think it was interesting, something your first guest said about being 14 years in a job, but she knew by year 9 that she'd had enough. So I think it's pretty much, it was...
But she went on for another 7 years after that.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing, I think I knew when I knew, it sort of took me a year then to say, you know what, I'm packing this in. I've got to do something different. Because I think sometimes, for me anyway, it might be different for anyone else out there, but I think sometimes you don't just want to make the decision because you're having a bad day, an isolated bad day. You don't just want to say, oh, fine, this person looked at me funny. They didn't say good morning, I'm leaving. No, you kind of want to make sure it's a concrete decision and it's an informed decision. And I think that was the step I had to take. And it took me about a year, probably just under, and I just handed in my notice. And of course, my manager was disappointed. She tried to, give me incentives to stay, but I thought, no, I've had enough, really.
I remember hating the job. One of my jobs, I absolutely loathed it. The first, it was actually, I don't know if it was, it was a combination of the job and my boss that I didn't like very much, because my first boss was lovely. I mean, this is the kind of boss I'd walk in and he'd have like a cup of tea waiting for me when I got in, and I used to do the same thing if I got in before him. The job was okay. It wasn't, because it was my first job when I left uni, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But then I got moved to another branch, and then I had this, it was a bit of a nightmare. I can't even explain something. He was so like sexist and really like annoying, and he just used to like be working, just hold out his coffee mug, go and get me a coffee, Chris. And it was like, it wasn't the fact of getting a coffee, it was just his attitude about everything. And he was, I just hated it then. Like the slightest headache I had, I'd ring in sick. Don't do this, guys, I was naughty back then. I just like any excuse I would find just to stay at home. So if I was a little bit sick, I would take a sickie. Basically, when I could have pushed myself to go in, but I had no sort of, what's the word?
I suppose motivation.
Yeah, no motivation. I didn't feel any loyalty towards the company or the people there. So I was really miserable. And I knew I needed to make the change.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing that we need to sort of look at and see. Like I said, just make sure it's not an emotional decision. And at the end of the day, if you've done your part, if you've done absolutely what you know you can do to sort of maybe change your focus, and I think I'll talk more about that as well later, but it's important that you don't make an isolated decision on, oh, I've had a bad day. Like you've said now, there was a sort of like a catalogue of different things that went on. And so, and then we can decide that, no, this person is not appreciating my qualities, so I'm leaving. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Okay. All right, Excel, let's move swiftly on now. You've got some news for us, haven't you? Or some celebs
I do.
That changed
I
career?
found some celebrities, that actually, some of them were surprising, I have to say, but others were just like typical. Katie Holmes, at age 34, this is Tom Cruise's ex-wife, decided she now wants to be an attorney.
She's decided now?
Yeah, because she played a movie, which I think it tanked as well, didn't do very well. But she played a movie, as a solicitor, and she decided that she was now going to be studying law. So we'll see how she gets on with that, because I don't know if that's actually just some whimsical, I'm going to study law now because I was a really great attorney in this movie. Or
it's not the same thing, is it really? I mean,
well,
I suppose that it is kind of a bit of acting, isn't it, sometimes, being an attorney?
Yeah, you gotta be a very good liar. Sorry, I'm sure there are honest solicitors out there.
Sorry on behalf of Excel for saying that.
I'm on a roll today. I'm sorry. You see, I've got to be the controversial one, Chrissy. You're the polite and diplomatic one. I'm just the controversial one. Well, and also somebody else who, again, I don't know if this is some flight idea or something, but Taylor Swift apparently says she's conquered singing and now she wants to go into acting. Well, and
it's kind of a natural progression, isn't it, though, really? A lot of people do that.
No, but does he have to? It's like some people are just not very good at either. Stick to one and perfect it, please. But
what are you trying to say, Excel?
Taylor Swift is a beautiful singer. Because I mean, I featured a video the other day about a police officer that was singing along to it. So she is, you know, she's all right. She's gorgeous. She's talented. I'm not going to take that away from her. But apparently she's actually wanted to be a movie star ever since she was a child. She started acting lessons when she was 9, but then it didn't work out for her, and then she went into singing. So, you know, you never know. Never too late to pursue your dreams.
Not at all.
Indeed. Cal Penn, he is, I don't know if people know him very much. He was on a series known as House and also on 24.
Who did he play?
He played, it doesn't say who he played actually.
Oh, I want to know who it is now.
He was the Asian guy. I have a photo of him.
Yes,
I think we just missed it. There you go.
I don't remember him from 24.
That's Cal Penn.
Mind you, I've only watched the first 4 series.
Or maybe he was, how many series are there?
8.
Oh gosh,
I think.
I don't even know. I've heard of it, but I don't know.
I got bored after the 4th one, to be honest.
I have friends who are really into it. Don't let them hear you say that. Apparently, he made a career switch in 2009 when he gave up his role on the show House to work as a chance to work in the White House, because he got a stint on the Barack Obama campaign trail. And he decided to now work for the Obama administration full-time. He said his decision was a personal one. He had friends who were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he just decided to say, look, I'm going to get involved in this on a personal level, because he served during the campaign time. And he said, working with the Obama administration, he served as an associate director in both the White House and the Office of Public Engagement. So, which was quite good. Although he did say, it says here as well in the report that the career was short-lived. After a few years on the job, he would return back to acting. Okay. So I suppose it was a case of kind of a career break, you might say, maybe. This one wasn't surprising. We all know Jerry Springer.
Don't we just?
Well, indeed. Apparently, before he went into his notorious daytime TV show, he was serving the people of Cincinnati, Ohio as the mayor.
No, you're joking.
Yeah, he was the mayor.
He was a mayor.
He was a mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio. And apparently he served 5 terms as the city councilman. But after that, he was forced to resign because he was busted in an undercover prostitution sting.
Oh.
Scandalous. Well, so he then, he spent just over 1 year in office before launching his television career, because he failed to return back as Ohio's governor. And we see, obviously his show has been running now for many, many years. Martha Stewart.
I didn't even comment on about anything, sorry. Nothing to say.
Nothing to say, it's all right.
At all.
Martha Stewart. Mm-hmm. She became obviously we know Martha Stewart, the cook. We know this cooking and the baking queen, and the sort of, she's successful in all things cooking and baking and all sorts, home improvement and all that business. Apparently, in her 20s, she used to work at Wall Street as one of the stockbrokers. She was actually
that's a big change.
One of the few female stockbrokers on Wall Street in the 70s. Sorry, wow. She passed her exams in 1967. And then she became, she had a successful run, but then gave up the job in 1973 when the economy turned sour. And after that, she then focused her talents on renovating an old farm in Connecticut and began building a catering business. So now she's built an empire for herself.
I think it's really hard for someone that's working in that kind of job to do with finance or stockbroking, anything like that, when the person is kind of quite creative and skilled in that kind of thing, because it's so different.
Very different. Poles apart.
It must, yeah. At least if it's something related to it that you're changing to.
She could have been a maths teacher or something.
Yeah, but it's such a huge, imagine how probably miserable she was in that job, knowing that she has a passion for cooking and baking and all that stuff.
But you see, I think a lot of people, I suppose particularly women, they look at it as, I bake a few cakes on the weekend, I bake a few cakes for my friends for their birthday. They don't see it as something they can go into as a profession, they probably just see it as a hobby. They just see it as, this is something I do on the weekends, it's not a big deal. So I think for her, for example, when the economy turned sour and she didn't have a job in Wall Street anymore.
So she did it.
It's like, I can do this. And I think sometimes it takes that. It takes that sort of jolt for you to go, what have I got? What can I do other than just this that I know to be a job? And what we kind of consider not being that, it's not really a job, becomes something that everybody knows her. She's built an empire around this, and she has magazine, television shows, websites, all sorts.
See, sometimes great things happen out of seemingly bad situations. And so you're going to stay with us because we're going to go to a quick break.
Okay.
And after the break, I'll also be sharing a few things to consider before making a career change. And of course, Motor Mouth over here is going to be giving her input too. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to today's show, and the topic is all about, is it time for a career change? So in this part of the show, we're going to put a different spin on things, because we had two guests, Excel, talking about how they needed to make the change and they don't regret making that change, which is wonderful, and that happens to a lot of people, but there are other things to consider. So I'm going to go through a few points with you. Now the first one is it really the job that you have the problem with, or is it the people that you work with? So don't forget, when we're at work, we spend sometimes more time with our work colleagues than we do with our loved ones, with our family members. So if maybe actually you love your job and it's something that you studied for and it's something that you really sacrificed for, and you've now got the perfect job, but it's like all that's being clouded because maybe of a certain particular person that might be bullying you at work, or the environment, and the first thing that you kind of think of, I can't take it more, I just want to leave. So if it is actually, if you break it all down and you see that actually it's not the job, I like the job, it's a person or the people, then I wouldn't say leave because of that, unless it's, you really can't take it and you've gone through all the HR steps and everything, but try and resolve the issues with the people first before, making a decision that you probably will regret. What do you think, Excel?
No, absolutely, because I think ultimately it's down to sort of how we deal with the problems that we encounter, because like you said, it could be a bad day and a good day that sort of happens, every now and again kind of thing. So I think if you change your attitude about certain things, I think it plays a big part. If someone is trying to run you out of the job, for example, and like this is a job you love, this is not something where, it's dreary on Monday morning, but it's maybe the colleagues that are kind of giving you a bit of a hard time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's about just don't let it, because the reason why I say that as well is the fact that, for example, in making my change in my job that I did, part of it as well was down to people, in terms of how it was just kind of general. There was just bullying, there was backstabbing, there was all sorts of different things. And sometimes it's almost like if you're not part of it, you're the outsider. And it was just a bit too, I'm not really up for this whole team splitting, camp this and camp that. And it's just so sometimes
I remember how it was at the time when I knew, I remember how sort of distressing it was for you at times.
It was so frustrating, it was annoying, it was just a mixture of all different emotions. And I just thought, and I tried to sort of, change and, kind of change my attitude about certain things. It worked temporarily, but at the same time, because the problem was still there in the sense of the people were still doing what they were doing, and it was just like, for my own sanity, for my own mental health, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to.
So that's a case. That's an extreme case that you were going through. But if it's something that you can get sorted out, and you haven't been to HR yet, you really should do. But if it gets to that stage where it is affecting your mental health, then it's definitely time to move on. If you've tried all the other avenues. Yeah. So the next point is your life outside making your job seem more difficult than it actually is? So sometimes it's not the job itself. Now we're talking about maybe if you're having family problems, you're having marriage issues, relationship issues, or maybe there's other stuff going on in your life, and going to work just seems to be one more thing that you have to deal with. So maybe the job is actually okay. It's something, like we said before, you love or you loved before. So if it's outside factors, maybe giving up your job is kind of the only thing, the good thing in your life at the moment. Probably not a good decision to leave that job, because maybe you'll end up now unemployed, plus all the other things that you're dealing with. So try to keep something in your life at the moment that at least is stable, and while you've got that, at least you can work on the other things that are going on in your life as well. So make sure you kind of distinguish, where is the problem here? Is it my job, or is it other things going on in my life? So this takes kind of thinking. I know you might be feeling stressed at the moment, you don't know what to do, but don't, like I said, don't make any hasty decisions. Think carefully, make sure you know what the reason is, if it's outside stuff or if it's actually your job. Okay, the next one is, try to pinpoint exactly when you started feeling unhappy. Any comments about that, Excel?
Yes, I think that's definitely important because it even links with what you said previously. If there are other things that are affecting you, it's probably good to make, like, if possible, make a list, pros, cons, a priority list to say, right, what is the most distressing thing now, if I can put it that way? It's like, what is the sort of thing that I need to deal with? Is it the choices I'm making? It could be even lifestyle choices. It could be health problems, for example. It could be diet, it could be exercise. It could be a number of all these different things that don't necessarily have to do with the job, because it's always easy to kind of blame something that it's not about you directly. So it's easier to sort of say, oh, it's the job, it's this, it's that. No, but maybe it's your choices that you've made personally that are also affecting you now. So it's about sitting down and making wiser choices and making wiser decisions as well.
Okay, we've kind of actually covered the next point as well, which is, was it a number of things, or do you just want a change in the position, for example? So you have to see, is it just one thing in your job, or if it's lots of things in your job? Because sometimes there's things that you can do about what's going on right now. You don't have to leave your job or leave your position just because of something that's going a bit wrong. Try to resolve that and not just kind of give up on it.
It might be training, for example. Maybe the person needs to train up, and maybe you can then go to your manager and say, could I be given more responsibility in this area? It could be a case of, I need to learn how to do this more, because if I learn this particular skill, I might be able to carry out my job more effectively. So things like that as well. It might just be training that's required.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not always possible to change your job for whatever reason. It's like a rare case when you really can't change your job. But say, for example, you're in the middle of paying some debts and you really can't afford to be out looking for a job right now. So something that you could consider doing is to change your attitude towards your job as well. So you might still dread going in every morning, but you can decide to try and make the most of your day, trying to make changes within your job environment or the actual work itself, because attitude is very important, isn't it?
Very much so. Because also if for example you're somebody who is, say, you're annoyed or you're angry all the time going into work, it's about how do you process that anger? How do you process what the situation is? Because at the end of the day, anger is a normal emotion. When we're upset about something, we get angry, we want to change things or whatever. So it's an emotion at the end of the day, but how do you process that? How do you make it sort of, more handleable, if I can say that? How would you then process this? And because I think what's important is that if you go into work, you're angry. What is it that's making you angry? Is it somebody that's offended you? Is it something about the work you don't like? So dealing with those salient points, I think it's important, because then you can come out and say, right, if I say, for example, I come into work, I have a problem with you because you're the one that keeps picking on me. It will be a case of coming in, we talk about it, you know what, the other day this happened, that happened. If you can't do it one-to-one, get your manager, do a three-way or something and deal with that, because sometimes it might just be a misunderstanding that's kind of got that issue that you're carrying around with you.
True.
So processing anger, processing all the emotions, the shame, the anger, the blame, she did it, she got me into trouble, and that. So I think once you can, like you said, your attitude plays a big part.
It does, it really does. Now, point 6 is to consider your options and do your research before actually deciding to make the change. So we've kind of already covered this in some of the videos that we showed today, but make sure that you don't just make a hasty decision, really look at your options out there. And number 7, if there's something that you've always wanted to do, then just do it. Don't waste any more time. It might mean that you have to retrain on something, but you need to, I think it's really important to keep your dreams alive, because there are many people in jobs that they do not like, and they end up getting depressed. They end up with all sorts of mental health issues, anxiety, stress disorder, all sorts of things that shouldn't happen, really. Some of these things can be avoided if you're doing the things that you love to do. So make sure you are living your dreams. I know it's a scary thing to do something new. It's a scary thing to leave a job. But at the end of the day, once you get past that fear, and like Matt said, it was like he felt calm. He felt like a peace when he gave up the job, even though he knew he didn't have an income coming in, but he knew he'd made the right decision. And that's what's going to happen when you follow what you really want to do.
Definitely, because I think in that occasion, you know, with Matt, for example, he had health issues as well.
Yeah.
And I think you have to place yourself first. It's not about sort of, oh, but I have to be there, I have to just earn money. And it's a very, very sort of powerful, when you're stressed out and you're not really at your best, what are you giving in that job?
Yeah.
You know, what really, because you haven't got something to give if you're not looking after yourself. And if you're just in a job because you want to earn money, you can do anything to earn money. So it's about just looking after yourself first. It's first and foremost, because guess what? If you don't look after yourself and you become unwell, you become, you know, with whatever disorder will arise because of this, stress, anxiety, paranoia, whatever, all of these things will add up. And then what? You'll be off sick. Someone else will do your job. That job's going to carry on.
It will.
You understand? So it's not as if you're the only person that's tagged to do that. So it's about looking after yourself as well and placing your own mental health. And
you have to be happy in your job. You have to. You spend hours there, at least. Probably
Half
if you're
of your
working
life.
full time. Exactly, at least 40 hours if someone that works full time. Imagine like half your life miserable. It doesn't make sense. You need to do something about it. But I hope this show has helped you today into making that decision, and you will end up living your dreams. And don't delay anymore. I know it's a scary thing to do, but I'm sure you're going to do it, and you know you're going to do great at what you really want to do, because where your passion lies, that's where you really, really excel. Oh, excel! That's her name too. I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't planned at all. All right, guys, so we have reached today the end of the program. But if you'd like to email me, if you'd like my advice, or if there's a situation that you're going through in particular that you'd like to speak to me about, you can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. And don't forget, I also have my personal website with more information about me and how I got through the issues that I had before. And the website address is mylifeafterdepression.com. And also we have the show website. Do you know it, Excel? Let's see if you remember it.
Oh, stop it.
So if you want more information about the program, the topics coming up.
It's chrissybshow.tv.
And the Facebook page?
It's The Chrissy B Show.
Yay, she got it right. Well done, my darling.
I know.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Excel. Thanks for helping with today's show.
You're very welcome.
And see you guys again next time. Bye for now. People are working longer hours and eating more of that nasty convenience food, and homemade meals are now... Oh, shut up, let me start again because I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at this video. This one's with Ben. Oh, shut up. 2, 1. Welcome back. Now, before I speak to Gabriel Boat, let's take a look at this. I'm sorry. 3, 2, 1.